The strict rules Princess Leonor must follow. In October 2023, Princess Leonor of Spain stood in the Spanish parliament and swore allegiance to the Constitution on her 18th birthday. The moment was brief, formal, and carefully structured, but institutionally, it carried decades of meaning. This was not simply a coming-of-age ceremony. It marked the activation of a complex legal, constitutional, and cultural framework that now governs her public life in precise ways. What most people do not fully see is that this single oath triggers a system of strict rules, some written into law, others shaped by long-standing practice, that will guide how Spain's future head of state is educated, represented, and constrained. By the end of this video, you will understand what those rules are, why they exist, and what they reveal about how modern constitutional monarchies prepare their future leaders. From that oath forward, Princess Leonor's role is no longer symbolic preparation alone. It becomes structured responsibility. Spain's monarchy operates within a constitutional system defined by the 1978 Constitution, which deliberately limits royal authority while preserving institutional continuity. For the heir to the throne, this means that freedom of action is not a private matter but a constitutional issue. Every appearance, every role, and every public duty must align with the principle of political neutrality and democratic legitimacy. The rules governing Princess Leonor are not designed to elevate her above the system. They are designed to embed her within it. She is being shaped not as a governing monarch, but as a future head of state whose authority depends entirely on restraint, preparation, and institutional trust. Understanding these rules requires looking beyond ceremony and into the architecture of modern monarchy itself. And this becomes clearer when we examine how the Constitution defines her position. Princess Leonor's first and most fundamental set of rules comes directly from Spain's constitution. As the Princess of Asturias and first in line to the throne, she is bound by the principle that the crown must remain politically neutral at all times. This is not optional, it is foundational. Unlike elected officials, the monarch and heir cannot express political opinions, participate in political debate, or align themselves publicly with any party, ideology, or movement. For Princess Leonor, this rule applies long before she ascends the throne. Her education, public appearances, and even the language used in official speeches are structured to reinforce neutrality. This constitutional requirement explains why her public statements are limited, carefully drafted, and delivered only in specific institutional contexts. The goal is not silence, but stability. In Spain's democratic framework, the crown exists to represent unity across political differences. That role can only function if the heir is perceived as impartial. This rule also shapes how her public image is managed. Media access, official photographs, and state coverage are governed by the royal household in coordination with constitutional norms. The intention is to prevent personalization of power. The institution comes first, the individual remains secondary. This constitutional grounding leads directly to the next major rule, the obligation of formal, state-directed education. Princess Leonor's education is not a private family choice. It is an institutional process shaped by precedent, law, and public accountability. From early schooling to military training, her academic path reflects a deliberate balance between modern education and constitutional preparation. She attended the UWC Atlantic College in Wales, an international institution known for its emphasis on global citizenship. This choice aligns with Spain's broader diplomatic outlook and reflects a modern understanding of the crown's representational role. However, the decision was not about personal enrichment alone. It served a strategic purpose, preparing the future head of state to engage confidently with international counterparts. Following this, her enrollment in military training mirrors a long-standing rule applied to heirs in Spain and other European monarchies. While the monarch does not command military operations, the Constitution names the king as supreme commander of the armed forces. For the heir, this creates a responsibility to understand military structure, discipline, and protocol firsthand. Princess Leonor's training across the Army, Navy, and Air Force is not symbolic. It ensures institutional familiarity and mutual respect between the crown and the armed forces. The rule here is clarity: authority must be informed, not ceremonial. This structured education also limits choice. Her academic timeline, locations, and progression are planned years in advance, leaving little room for deviation. Preparation is not flexible, it is continuous. And this raises an important point. Education is only one aspect of the discipline expected of a constitutional heir. Another strict rule governing Princess Leonor is the limitation on personal autonomy in public life. Unlike private citizens, she cannot independently choose how or when to appear in public. Every engagement is vetted for institutional relevance and constitutional appropriateness. This rule is especially visible in how her public schedule is managed. Appearances are designed to introduce responsibility gradually, ensuring that each role aligns with her age, experience, and legal standing. Early engagements often focus on culture, education, and national heritage rather than policy-adjacent topics. The purpose is twofold. First, it protects the neutrality of the crown. Second, it prevents the premature personalization of authority. Princess Leonor is presented as a representative of continuity, not as an individual influencer or opinion leader. This contrasts sharply with celebrity culture, where visibility often equates to personal branding. In a constitutional monarchy, visibility must serve institutional legitimacy. The rule is not to be seen often, but to be seen appropriately. This approach mirrors practices in other European monarchies, such as the Netherlands and Sweden, where heirs are introduced to public duty incrementally. The pattern reinforces a shared understanding: the role must mature before the individual is fully visible. And with visibility comes another set of constraints, those surrounding speech and communication. Princess Leonor's public communication is governed by strict protocols. She does not speak spontaneously in public forums, nor does she give interviews expressing personal viewpoints. When she addresses audiences, her speeches are institutionally framed and carefully prepared. This is not about controlling personality. It is about protecting constitutional boundaries. In Spain, the crown's legitimacy depends on its distance from political discourse. Even seemingly neutral commentary can be interpreted politically, especially in a polarized media environment. For this reason, her speeches focus on shared values such as education, culture, history, and unity. They avoid policy implications or contemporary political debates. The language is formal, inclusive, and deliberately restrained. This rule also extends to digital presence. Princess Leonor does not maintain personal social media accounts. Any digital representation is managed through official royal household channels. The aim is to prevent informal communication from being misinterpreted as personal opinion or unofficial policy. In modern monarchies, this restraint is increasingly significant. The speed of information requires greater discipline, not less. For the heir, silence can be as meaningful as speech. This careful communication strategy leads naturally into another rule: accountability without political power. Princess Leonor is expected to embody responsibility long before she holds authority. This is a defining feature of constitutional monarchy. The heir must be accountable to public expectations without possessing decision-making power. This rule manifests in symbolic acts such as receiving awards, presiding over ceremonies, and representing Spain at official functions. These moments carry weight, but they do not grant influence over policy or governance. The distinction is essential. In Spain, sovereignty resides with the people, exercised through democratic institutions. The crown's role is to facilitate continuity and represent the state, not to direct it. For Princess Leonor, this means learning to operate within constraints. She must understand the mechanisms of government deeply, while remaining outside their operation. This balance requires discipline, patience, and long-term perspective. Historically, monarchies that failed to respect this boundary faced institutional instability. Modern European monarchies have adapted by reinforcing rules that separate symbolic authority from political power. Princess Leonor's preparation reflects this evolution. Her role is not to shape policy, but to safeguard the framework within which policy operates. And this safeguarding role extends beyond Spain's borders. As future head of state, Princess Leonor is bound by rules governing international representation. Even as an heir, her participation in diplomatic contexts must align with Spain's foreign policy as determined by elected governments. This means that any international engagement is coordinated with state institutions. She does not speak independently on global issues, nor does she engage in personal diplomacy. Her presence reinforces Spain's continuity, not its policy positions. This rule underscores the difference between representation and negotiation. The crown represents the nation as a stable entity across political cycles. Governments negotiate on behalf of voters. In practice, this leads to carefully choreographed appearances, often alongside senior officials or members of the royal family. Each engagement serves a symbolic purpose, reinforcing relationships rather than shaping them. This model is common across constitutional monarchies. In the United Kingdom, Sweden, and Belgium, heirs are introduced to international roles gradually, under strict institutional guidance. For Princess Leonor, these rules ensure that her future authority rests on trust, not influence. And trust, in constitutional terms, is built over time. Time itself is one of the strictest rules Princess Leonor must follow. There is no acceleration of preparation, no shortcut to legitimacy. Her role unfolds according to constitutional milestones, not personal readiness alone. This is why her public responsibilities increased noticeably after her 18th birthday. Legal adulthood activates new constitutional expectations, but it does not remove restrictions. Instead, it deepens them. Each phase of preparation builds upon the last. Education leads to service, service leads to representation, representation leads to leadership readiness. At no point is the process rushed. This slow progression reflects a broader principle in constitutional monarchy: stability depends on predictability. Citizens must understand what the crown is and what it is not. Princess Leonor's journey is designed to be visible, measured, and consistent. The rules governing her path are meant to prevent uncertainty, not create it. And as her role expands, another critical rule becomes increasingly relevant: permanence. Unlike elected positions, the role Princess Leonor is preparing for is lifelong. This reality shapes the rules surrounding conduct, consistency, and restraint. The expectation is not perfection, but continuity. Decisions are evaluated not for immediate impact, but for long-term institutional effect. This requires a different mindset than political leadership. The rules governing her conduct emphasize durability over popularity. Actions are assessed based on how they reinforce the monarchy's constitutional role across generations. This long view explains why preparation begins early and remains structured. The institution does not adapt to the individual. The individual adapts to the institution. In modern Spain, this approach reflects lessons learned from history. The post-1978 constitutional monarchy was designed to be stable, limited, and democratic. The rules governing the heir ensure that this design is preserved. Princess Leonor's preparation is not about power. It is about stewardship, and stewardship, by definition, is guided by rules. As we step back, it becomes clear that the strict rules Princess Leonor must follow are not constraints imposed on a person, but safeguards placed around an institution. They reflect a deliberate choice by Spain to balance tradition with democracy, symbolism with accountability. Each rule, constitutional neutrality, structured education, controlled visibility, disciplined communication, and gradual responsibility, serves a specific purpose. Together, they form a framework designed to produce stability rather than authority. This is the essence of modern monarchy. Leadership is prepared quietly, tested slowly, and exercised sparingly. Princess Leonor's path illustrates how institutions outlast individuals by shaping them carefully. Her future role will not depend on personal expression, but on adherence to the rules that give the crown its meaning. And in that sense, her preparation tells us as much about constitutional governance as it does about monarchy itself. The story of Princess Leonor's rules is ultimately a lesson in leadership without power and responsibility without choice. It shows how modern institutions invest in preparation, restraint, and continuity to maintain public trust over time. In a world that often equates leadership with visibility and influence, constitutional monarchy offers a different model, one built on limits, discipline, and long-term thinking. Only 1 in 10 viewers here is subscribed. If you value thoughtful insights into royalty and leadership, join the community.